welcome back. If you are new here, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you continue to join us. If you are just a returning person, thank you just for continuing to be here, to be a part of this channel. As we are healing, as we are growing, as we are blooming in the people that God has called us to be, for and foremost, always establishing a relationship, a secure relationship with Him, which naturally transcends into every area, every other area of our life. I'm not cutting that. So I am trying to get right into this because I don't know how long this video is going to take. But one, I just want to say I am just so thankful that God is just using me to speak about this. One, because it shows the imperfection of man. It demonstrates the grace and goodness of God and like what His mercy really looks like. From a tangible standpoint. So I'm going to try to talk as much about the story and then talk about like what I've really learned and how this really just relates to just our day-to-day walk with God. That can get tricky sometimes, you know, as we are navigating systems, as we're navigating relationships with people, as we are navigating truth and what that looks like. So if you guys don't know, there are very few people that know that I moved to Texas, sort of, kind of, not really, but I'll get into that question mark a little bit later. So really going into 2024, I gave God my yes. And in my yes, He began to like strip me down internally, externally, and it felt really, really uncomfortable. As God was really like preparing me for the next season of my life. I remember it was about May where God was like, declutter. And that's the only instruction that He gave me. And if you know me, like I am not a type of person that hoards stuff. Like I'm very much like, I don't like things. I want to get rid of it. And so I'm just like, sir, what am I decluttering? But unfortunately, I actually ended up having a lot of stuff at a storage unit, right? Like I live in Minnesota, so there's like seasonal clothes, seasonal items. And so I'm really like, okay, what is a necessity and like can I get rid of it? So I really spent the last between May and I want to say like August, no, the end of July, like really just getting rid of stuff, like going to Goodwill. And I remember the last trip that I had, I came into my apartment and I remember just like crying. It was just empty. Like I felt empty. It felt empty. And if you guys know, like after my divorce, like I lost everything, and not necessarily lost everything, but I didn't want the house because it had too many bad memories in it. And so I really felt like there was a process of me rebuilding. And I think at that place in my life, I really felt like I had everything that I needed, right? Like in terms of like what success felt like to me, like doing life on my own as a single mom. And so I came into the house and it was just completely empty. And I'm just like, God, like everything that I worked for is gone. And I remember turning on worship music, right? Because that's just what I do. And the first song that came on was Come Again. And there's a point in where it says, it's not a building that you wanted to fill, it's my heart. This empty space is what you wanted all along. And I remember just crying because like, even though everything around me was empty, right? Like even though I had released, I surrendered, I sacrificed like everything that God was asking me to do, there was still this overwhelming joy that encompassed me of just being like, wow, like God, you can really have it all. Like I can lose it all. And the difference is that this isn't changing my worth or what I feel about myself, right? Like it is allowing me to see your goodness despite, right? Like if I believe that everything that I have is yours, then I shouldn't have any issues with getting rid of it either. And so that was such a unique place for me to feel of being like, it's not the things, it's not the tangible things, it's not the material things. Like it really is the presence of God and having Him And so really having that security and that structure was like the most beautiful thing. So aside from that, then God continued to like harp on my like my spirit that like I was preparing to move, right? And there was just like so many confirmations, so much like scripture that he just kept like pointing out, specifically Isaiah 43:6, where it says, I'm going to tell the north to give them up and the south not to hold them back. And that was the one that consistently, and so I'm getting to a place where like I'm like, okay, you want me to go, like, but I need an answer, like, where am I going? And so I went on a fast because I believe that not only does God hear me, I believe that God answers me, and that he has proved that to be true consistently throughout this journey in my life with him, right? And so I was like, I'm going to fast because not only am I going to be sure without a reasonable doubt that this is God's answer for me, right? And I released and I surrendered however he was going to respond, because I have had moments where God will like literally respond and give me a confirmation back to back to back to back in like a dream or a vision. But I was just like, however you want to speak, like I needed to be very, very clear. And so I remember at the end of my fast, I was like, the last day, it hadn't finished, but the last day, I went to go get my car fixed, and I'm like driving on the highway, and like a U-Haul truck is like to my right, and then literally pulls up a car next to me on my left and cuts in front of me, and it's a license plate that said HTX. And I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that God is very intentional about how he moves, how he speaks, and I knew like immediately like that was my answer. And I'm like, okay, like I don't know how this is gonna happen, I don't know what this looks like, but like if you say so, like whatever. So anyways, so I kind of like went through the process of like just talking to like my ex, and I was like, hey, like, I want to answer by this time. And so he did not immediately give me an answer. And he did not give me an answer when I asked, but I reached back out to him and it was a no. So the proposition, essentially, the way our divorce works is that we have to go through mediation before we present an order to the courts. And so I filed for a mediation hearing so that way we can sit together and just talk about it. And it was a waste of time. Like, we shouldn't even have done it. There was just like no reasoning, no rationality, nothing. And I'm just like, okay, like I have no idea what I'm doing. Like now I'm starting to get fearful, right? Because I'm like, God, I know I heard you. Like, I know that this is what you said. Like, what am I supposed to be doing, right? Like now I'm getting into the place of fear and worry, right? Because I'm just like, I've already surrendered my apartment. Like, we're coming up on the end. And I'm just like, God, I know I have to go, right? And so me and my kids go to Texas, and there was just so many God-filled moments during that process, right? And the first thing that happened is that we end up meeting these two guys at the cafe, and they were just like, hey, like, we love your son's shirt. Like, what church do you guys go to? And we're like, actually, we don't go to a church. Like, we're just scoping out the area. And he's like, oh, well, what do you do for work? And I was just like, I work with the homeless population. And they're like, oh, wow, we do like a lot of ministry with the homeless population. And this instantly, like, I had a quickening in my spirit. Like, it was just such a God moment. And I was like, oh, this is interesting, right? Like, not more confirmation. And so they invited us to, it's called Nations House of Prayer. And they were like, oh, well, we have worship nights on these days. We have one tonight. And me and the kids weren't doing anything. So I was like, yeah, of course we'll go. So we go there, and whatever, like, just getting acclimated and stuff like that. And my kids are like running around with playing with kids and stuff like that, and I'm just like scanning for them, of course, right? Because I'm a mom and we're in a new place and I don't know these people. So I'm like scanning around, and like God's like, they're safe. And I'm just like, okay. Look, hey, I'm gonna trust you, right? And so I'm sitting there worshiping God, and he like brought up this scripture like that came into remembrance. And so the scripture, I'm actually going to read it. It's in Isaiah 49, where he says, This is what the sovereign Lord says. See, I will beckon to the nations. I will lift up my banner to the people, and they will bring your sons. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. They will bring their sons in their arms and carry your daughters on their hips. Kings will be your foster fathers, and their queens their nursing mothers. And like instantly I started crying, right? Because I'm just like, God, like, you're so intentional, but more importantly, like, I don't see the end of this, right? And so in my heart, I'm like, I know I have to go. Like, I know that right now, this, right? Like, as God is literally stripping me of idols, I know that God does not have grandchildren, He has children. And if my kids are His children, I know He is going to take care of them and make sure that they are okay, right? Like, there is already a plan in place for me to go back and forth, right? And so that's that. And so then we're literally driving back to Minnesota, and I'm like crying the whole time, like praying, crying, like worshiping. And so we get back to Minnesota, I drop them off. I drop all of their stuff off too, and I'm just like, okay, well, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm going to an Airbnb because I don't have my apartment. The plan is to go to this, and I'm literally leaving my kids. And that night, we have the craziest storm. I'm going to try to tag the photo to this video, but there was like the craziest storm, and the light, the whole sky was like pink, and I was like, wow, there's a crazy storm going outside. Then immediately once I walked outside, there was like a rainbow, and I was just like crying because I'm just like, God, I don't know what to do. But I did not go, and so now I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't have an apartment. I'm in an Airbnb right now. And so I went to LA to whatever, like go stay with my boyfriend until I can like figure stuff out, like getting an apartment at home. I knew that I did not want to get a year lease because I was like, I don't know what this process looks like. I just need somewhere to stay until I can figure this out. And so by the grace of God, there was somebody who was was subleasing their apartment. And so I'm like filing the paperwork and stuff like that. And of course I'm like worried because I'm like, God, I just quit my full-time job. Like, you know, I'm gonna have to fork all of this money for like security deposits, like rent and stuff like that. And the guy was like, oh yeah, by the way, you don't have to pay for October. Like, I've already taken care of it. And I'm just like, oh, thank you, like, so much. And then the next 2 months, for whatever reason, like, end up getting paid for as well. So October, November, December, like fully paid in full. I didn't have to pay for anything. And so I'm like working on my business, working on stuff, spending time with God. And then comes May, right? Like when my lease was about to end, and I'm just like, God has still been working on me and preparing me to move. And I'm just like, literally, I think by May, like I was getting rid of so much stuff. I think I was like down to like 10 outfits because God was like, I need you to take a bag and nothing else. Like, and so I remember I was like literally down to 10 outfits, and I was like, this feels very icky. Like, not only icky, but more so in a point, like, I'm just like, okay, God, like, I trust you, whatever you're doing, like, I promise. And I remember in May, like, God asking me, he was like, what feels different? And I was just like, my faith feels different. Like, I feel like I'm prepared, right? Because I feel like the first time I allowed fear to rob me. But the second time I was like, no matter what it takes, like my answer is yes. And so I remember looking for apartments in Texas, and the first apartment that I applied to, I got denied for it. And I started getting very discouraged. I was like, I don't know, like, I don't understand. Like, you're asking me to do this and it's like not making sense. And so I like found a like relocator or a locator, an apartment locator that they have out there. And so they're helping me find apartments. And I was like narrowed down to two choices. And I was like, I don't know which one I should pick. And so I was asking my boyfriend at the time, I was like, you know, which one should I do? And I'm like explaining the things. And he's just like, you should choose this one. God was like, are you going to ask me? And I was just like, yes, actually, I am going to ask you. And so I remember asking God, and he asked me to look up the number of the one that I was like really leaning towards, even though it didn't necessarily make sense, because I was like, the other place is bigger and it's less expensive, but I was really like drawn to that one because it had just had all of the amenities that I needed, and I feel like the location just made more sense. So he asked me to look up the numbers of that apartment, and I don't know if you guys use Strong's Concordance, but like I looked it up, and the number of the apartment, typically Strong's Concordance like spits out a bunch of like different verses depending on it's the Hebrew or the Greek. And so this one specifically only had one verse, and it was 2 Corinthians 12:15, where Paul is talking about expending up. So actually, I'm going to pull it up. So I will very gladly spend for you everything I have and expend myself as well. If I love you more, will you love me less? But 14 says, I'm now ready to visit you for a third time. I will not be a burden to you, because what I want is not your possessions, but you. After all, children should not have to save up for their parents, but parents for their children. So anytime like I have been stressed about like finances, anytime that I have been like questioning entrepreneurship, anytime I have like questioned God's decision for my life, like this is the Bible verse that he always brings me to. And so I was like, that's it. So I had my answer, and I applied for the apartment. I got approved instantly. And so I ended up moving to Texas, right? But through like that being my answer, I was like talking to my ex about it, like, hey, like my lease is up, blah, 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 blah. And he was just like, I also have to go into the office more. And I was just like, here, like, this is what I can propose in terms of what this looks like. And yeah, and he was just like, okay, that works for me. So, yeah, it's just when your answer is yes, and when you stand on your yes, God allows things to move. So now let's talk about just like what I've learned in the process. One, I remember having like a dream of me literally being in the belly of a well. And this was when God was preparing me to move to Texas the first time. And that's literally how I felt. Like I felt like that in the season where I went against God, I disobeyed him, and did not move forward with the original plan, right? Like, do I know what that would have looked like? Probably not. Like, because I didn't necessarily have like the end goal, but all I know is that that's what God was asking me to do, right? And so I felt like I was in the belly of the whale, right? Because like God didn't allow the waves or the storm to kill Jonah, which it could have, right? Like he could have gotten Aiden, whatever the case might be. He's like, I'm going to swallow you up and put you into a place until you obey, right? Like until you understand that I am God. Like, and so I felt just the mercy of God, like the grace of him, of being like, yeah, maybe I disobeyed you, I failed you, but like you were still good, right? Like, and this is not an excuse to continue to disobey God. It's just saying that I believe that God factors in our ignorance, right? When we operate out of his will, when we go against his will, when there's still a plan that he has in place for our lives, right? He shows us and he meets us with grace and mercy to say, yeah, this may not been what this looked like for you, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to redeem yourself, right? Like, let's get you into a place until you understand that obedience is the plan, right? Like, I'm not asking for perfection. I don't care how you feel. I am saying that the only thing that you're in charge of is your yes, your obedience, right? Like whatever else happens after that is between me and the situation. And so there really is something beautiful about God. But another thing is that it is very important who you surround yourself with, right? And the reason why I'm saying that, like the people who do know that I moved to Texas, like a lot of the conversation was like, there was a lot of people who spoke fear and doubt into my mind, right? There were so many people who were like questioning me and be like, well, that seems like a lot. Oh my God, I don't know if that, like, I don't understand. Like, are you sure? Like, and in your mind, like you want to believe like, whew, I have so much faith. Yeah, like I can do this. It doesn't matter. Yep, I like it. But in the back of your mind, you're literally echoing the negative thoughts that they're speaking into you because you're just like, actually don't trust yourself to make the decision, right? And as somebody who is like newly really surrendering their all to God, that felt scary for me because I'm just like, I cannot mess this up. There's just too many things like online right here to be like playing this like maybe game, right? And so as people were like speaking, I began to internalize what they were saying as being like, dang, like I don't think this is a good idea. There's so much opposition that's happening. Um, but if you realize most of the stories in the Bible where there was opposition and there was faith and there was praise and there was surrender and there was literally reminding themselves of God's goodness, God always killed the opposition. Like, but again, for me, I'm just like, this feels a little bigger than me. I feel trapped and caged. And so I'm going to revert. The second time, I was literally in a community of believers who literally had the audacity to continue to trust in God, to speak about their faith. The last message that they were really talking about was like really the cost of your yes, realizing that your yes does bring burden, but your yes also brings blessing, right? And it's like God, I feel like God specifically positioned me in that community so that way I can trust, so I can grow, so I can mature, so I can believe that God really is who he says he is, that he has the ability to do the impossible, right? And so when God asked me in May, like what was different, not only did I have the people who had been speaking, despite nobody knowing this, that this was my plan. I had people consistently reminding me of God's goodness and spoke that into my heart, into my mind, into my vision, into the plans and the dreams that God has given me. And so it's very, very important of who you surround yourself with, because it could either be your lifeboat or it will literally be the thing that pulls you down. Okay. And then another thing is that God's timing is very specific, right? I think back in terms of like all of the quickening moments or all of the spirit led moments going when I should have went the first time, right? That was literally God opening up the door of opportunity. The second time, God really was redeeming me. Like, I remember specifically, God was like, I am giving you a second chance. Like, that is literally what he said verbatim, right? So, when the first apartment denied me, the reason why it denied me is because there was a past balance that I owed, that I was paying to a landlord because I had to break my lease due to a stalking situation, which is just another that's another story, for another day. And so that is part of the reason why they like denied me, because of that situation. When I asked God the second time, I don't know what I'm doing. These are the two apartments that I'm asking you for. And he answered me. Not only did that apartment completely come off of my credit, like completely gone, he gave me the answer of where I needed to be. So here we are having a miraculous situation that completely is off of my credit. And it's not like it's been the 7 year, like where things will fall off your credit. No, it miraculously disappeared. Like, and I'm looking on all of these things, like, where is it at? Like, it literally disappeared. And so when I got approved for that apartment, I was just like, God, like, you literally have the glory, right? Again, a window a window of opportunity opens so that way you can walk through the door that God has given you. Not only that, the entire year I spent praying for my ex-husband's heart. I I prayed that he will come into some sort of alignment with what God was asking me to do. And he would believe in the vision, right? And so he allowed that to happen, right? Like, there was not only a need on his end, but there was also a need that God needed me to be there. And so God opened up contracts for me to be able to, like, have the flexibility to be able to, like, work wherever I need to. Like, there wasn't a component of, like, needing to be in one spot, and everything was literally happening at once. And God's like, are you going to trust me to move, right? I think so many times we are waiting for God to move, but God is really like, can you stand deep enough in obedience to do the thing that I'm asking you to do, no matter what the cost is, no matter what it looks like, even though you are blindly doing it, right? And so as I'm saying yes, as I feel prepared to say yes, as I feel the peace in my spirit because I have seen God's goodness, God's like, need right now I need you to move, right? And I'm saying this all to say, as somebody, right, like, who's very an imperfect person, as somebody who has experienced a lot of betrayal, a lot of hurt, through people that I trusted, right, that I loved. It has been a very difficult journey to trust God, right? And I think this is more important for people who have been deeply betrayed by parental figures in their life, right? Like, maybe not necessarily just mom and dad, it could be grandma, it could be mentors, people, right, who have been burned by the church. Because when we see man in their error, it's easy for us to doubt God, right? I think often we try to work around it in believing that we trust God, right? We say we have so much faith, but then the moment doubt creeps in, the moment fear creeps in, the moment obstacles creep in, it allows us to put our hands back on things and take control. And I am the person, right? Like, I am a planner. I am like, this doesn't make sense. Like, it needs to make sense, right? Like, I try to wrap my head around things often. And so seeing God move in my life in such a unique way and allow me to walk in faith blindly only speaks of his gentleness, right? Because he knows, right? Like, he knows that we feel fear. He knows that we feel doubt, right? He just hasn't given it to us, right? But what we do when we feel those emotions, it's saying, hey, God, I'm feeling this, but I'm surrendering this to you. I am giving this back to you because I know that you have not given me a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. And in order for me to see that to be true, I am exchanging this fear and this doubt for this sound mind, right? And that's the difference between relationship and religion, because religion says I am going to hide my faults, I'm going to hide my shortcomings, I'm going to hide my emotions and my feelings, but relationship says I am going to surrender this to you. Despite what I feel, despite what I know, despite what I believe right now, I am going to sit it at your feet until something changes, right? Like, there is a consistent exchange that happens when we decide that we're going to believe in God, when we decide we're going to wake up, when we decide we're going to love on people despite what the world says, right? Like at the end of the day, it's always not my will, but your will be done, right? And I think as we really are just like growing strong in our faith, but more importantly, relationship with God, we're going to have to challenge this distorted view that we have with God based off of the people that we've experienced in our lives. But not only that, like when we truly love God, when we know God, when we believe in God, we will continue to see his heart for people, right? And so as we are doing relationship with God, with community, building ministries, right? Like going to work, ministering the gospel, like being a helping hand, being the hands and feet of Jesus, we're gonna have to challenge our thinking, right? Killing our flesh daily, setting our minds on things of the kingdom and not things of this world, right? Because again, right, like Satan loves to creep in with fear, with fragility of our own beliefs, and when he can come after our mind to doubt God's goodness, God's heart for people, then that is going to naturally begin to show and play, right, in the way we operate in our ministries, in our relationships, in our relationship with God, right? So I think as we are blindly experiencing faith, as we are blindly trusting God, as we are blindly doing a healing, right? Like healing is really a journey because God begins to reveal things to us that weren't there before. And we're like, oh, okay, maybe actually I do need to work on that, right? Like, know that if God is bringing you to a place, then his grace will sustain you. And if his grace is still sustaining you, then there is a purpose. Love you guys.